Maya Rodriguez sat alone at the corner table of the busy college cafeteria, her hands moving gracefully through the air as she signed with her younger brother Alex over a video call. Her fingers danced with purpose, telling him about her day, her upcoming exams, and reminding him to finish his homework. To Maya, sign language was as natural as breathing. She had been born deaf, and this beautiful, silent language had been her voice since childhood. But to the group of students at the nearby table, her signing was nothing more than entertainment. Jake Morrison, the star quarterback, nudged his friends and pointed in Maya's direction. "Look at that girl doing her weird hand dancing again," he whispered loudly enough for others to hear. His girlfriend Brittany giggled behind her manicured hand. "It's so distracting. Why can't she just text like normal people?" The comments weren't new to Maya. She had learned to read lips years ago, partly out of necessity and partly to understand what people said about her when they thought she couldn't hear. Each cruel word stung, but she had developed thick skin over the years. Her parents had taught her that ignorance often spoke louder than knowledge, and that some people feared what they didn't understand. As Maya finished her call with Alex, she noticed Professor Williams approaching her table. The elderly man had always been kind to her, making sure she had access to interpreters for his advanced chemistry classes. He sat down across from her, his expression serious but warm. Through their established communication method of writing notes, he shared some exciting news. "Maya," he wrote on a piece of paper, "I've been contacted by a military recruiter. They're looking for exceptional candidates for a special program. Your grades, your determination, and your unique skills make you an ideal candidate. Would you be interested in learning more?" Maya's eyes widened with surprise and curiosity. She had always dreamed of serving her country, but had assumed her deafness would be a barrier. She wrote back quickly, "What kind of program? I thought the military had restrictions for people like me." Professor Williams smiled and wrote his response carefully. "Times are changing, Maya. The military is recognizing that diversity includes all kinds of abilities. This particular program values unique perspectives and skills. Your ability to communicate silently, your heightened visual awareness, and your academic excellence make you exactly what they're looking for." Meanwhile, Jake and his friends continued their immature commentary. "I bet she's planning some weird silent flash mob," Jake said, causing his table to erupt in laughter. Little did they know that Maya was reading every word from their lips, storing away their mockery like fuel for a fire that would soon burn brighter than they could imagine. That evening, Maya walked across campus to her dorm room, her mind racing with possibilities. She had always been driven to prove that being deaf didn't make her less capable than anyone else. In high school, she had been valedictorian. In college, she maintained a perfect GPA while studying biochemistry and computer science. She spoke 3 languages fluently in sign, could read lips in English and Spanish, and had taught herself to code in multiple programming languages. Her roommate, Sarah, was one of the few students who had taken the time to learn basic sign language to communicate with Maya. When Maya shared the news about the military opportunity, Sarah's excitement was immediate and genuine. "Maya, this sounds incredible. You've always talked about wanting to make a real difference in the world. This could be your chance." As Maya lay in bed that night, she thought about her parents who had immigrated to America with nothing but hope and determination. They had worked multiple jobs to afford her education, and had never once made her feel like her deafness was a limitation. Her father always said, "Mija, God gave you different abilities, not disabilities. Use them to show the world what you can do." She also thought about Alex, her 15-year-old brother who looked up to her as his hero. He had been born hearing, but had learned sign language as his first language so he could communicate with his big sister. He often told his friends that Maya was the smartest and strongest person he knew, and he wanted to be just like her when he grew up. The next morning, Maya made her decision. She would meet with the military recruiter and learn everything she could about this mysterious program. As she walked through campus, Jake and his friends were at their usual spot, making their usual comments. But today Maya held her head a little higher, her steps a little more purposeful. She didn't know it yet, but she was about to embark on a journey that would not only change her life, but also show everyone around her what true strength and capability looked like. The same hands that others mocked for their graceful movements would soon be trained to save lives, gather intelligence, and serve her country in ways that most people could never imagine. The meeting with the recruiter was scheduled for the following week. and Maya spent every free moment researching military programs and opportunities. She discovered that the modern military was indeed evolving, recognizing that the skills traditionally seen as disabilities could actually be incredible assets in the right circumstances. Her sign language wasn't just communication, it was silent, undetectable coordination. Her deafness wasn't a limitation, it was immunity to auditory distractions and enhanced focus on visual and tactical details. Her experience navigating a world not designed for her had built resilience, adaptability, and problem-solving skills that couldn't be taught in any classroom. The military recruitment office was nothing like Maya had imagined. Instead of the sterile, intimidating environment she expected, she found herself in a comfortable conference room with Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, a woman whose calm demeanor immediately put Maya at ease. What surprised Maya most was that Commander Chen began their conversation in fluent American Sign Language. "I've been following your academic record for some time, Maya," Commander Chen signed with precise, professional movements. "Your professors speak very highly of your analytical skills, your leadership potential, and your unique perspective on problem-solving." Maya felt a mixture of pride and curiosity. She had never considered that her deafness might be viewed as an asset by the military. Through their conversation, she learned about a classified program that recruited individuals with exceptional abilities and unique perspectives for special operations support roles. "The modern battlefield requires diverse skill sets," Commander Chen explained. "Silent communication, enhanced visual processing, and the ability to focus in high-stress environments are incredibly valuable. Your background has given you training that most people never receive." Back on campus, Maya's newfound confidence didn't go unnoticed, though not everyone appreciated the change. Jake Morrison had grown accustomed to having an easy target for his immature humor, and Maya's recent self-assurance bothered him more than he cared to admit. During lunch that day, Jake decided to escalate his harassment. As Maya sat studying for her advanced biochemistry exam, he approached her table with his usual group of followers. Without warning, he began making exaggerated, mocking gestures with his hands, clearly imitating sign language in the most disrespectful way possible. "Hey everyone, look, I'm speaking hand wave too," Jake announced loudly, drawing attention from across the cafeteria. His crude mimicry bore no resemblance to actual sign language, but his intent was clear. Several students looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up to defend Maya. Maya watched Jake's performance with a calm expression that unnerved him. She had dealt with this type of ignorance before, but something was different now. Instead of the hurt or embarrassment Jake expected to see, Maya's eyes held a quiet confidence that made him feel suddenly foolish. When Jake finished his display, Maya stood up slowly and approached him. Without breaking eye contact, she began to sign with deliberate, precise movements. Her hands moved with the grace and purpose of someone who had mastered their craft over decades. She wasn't angry or upset. She was demonstrating the difference between ignorance and skill. "What's she doing now?" Brittany whispered nervously. Maya continued signing for several more seconds, then pulled out her phone and typed a message, which she showed to Jake. "I was just explaining to you in 3 different sign languages why education is more valuable than ignorance. I doubt you understood any of it." The cafeteria had grown noticeably quieter. Students who had been watching the scene began to realize that they were witnessing something more significant than typical college drama. Maya's composure and dignity, in the face of Jake's cruelty, made his behavior look exactly what it was, petty and small. Professor Williams, who had been observing from across the room, approached the group. "Mr. Morrison," he said firmly, "I believe you owe Ms. Rodriguez an apology. What you just did was not only disrespectful but also incredibly ignorant." Jake's face reddened with embarrassment and anger. Instead of apologizing, he doubled down on his behavior. "Why should I apologize for joking around? It's not my fault she can't take a joke. Maybe if she tried to fit in like everyone else instead of doing her weird hand thing all the time, people wouldn't notice her so much." The comment revealed more about Jake's character than he realized. Several students in the cafeteria began to look at him with obvious disapproval. Maya, however, remained calm and collected. She typed another message on her phone and showed it to Professor Williams, who read it aloud. "Ms. Rodriguez would like me to tell you that she hopes someday you'll understand that being different isn't something to be ashamed of, and that making fun of others says more about your character than theirs. That evening, Maya met with Commander Chen again to discuss the details of the special program. She learned that she would undergo the same rigorous training as other military personnel, with additional specialized instruction that would leverage her unique skills. The training won't be easy, Commander Chen warned. Physical conditioning, weapons training, tactical operations, intelligence gathering, and specialized communication protocols. But if you complete the program, you'll be qualified for operations that require the highest levels of skill and discretion. Maya thought about Jake's words from earlier that day. His suggestion that she should try to fit in like everyone else struck her as particularly ironic now. Here was a branch of the United States military specifically seeking her out because she didn't fit the typical mold. When would training begin? Maya asked through sign language. If you're accepted after the full evaluation process, training would start this summer. You'd take a leave of absence from school, complete the program, and then return to finish your degree. The military would cover your educational expenses and provide additional compensation. Maya felt a surge of excitement mixed with determination. This was more than just an opportunity. It was a chance to prove that her differences were strengths, not weaknesses. She thought about Alex, who would be so proud to know his sister was serving their country. She thought about her parents, who had sacrificed so much to give her opportunities. And yes, she thought about Jake and students like him, who saw her deafness as something to mock rather than a different way of experiencing and interacting with the world. I'm very interested, Maya signed. What's the next step? Commander Chen smiled. Physical and psychological evaluations, background checks, and a series of aptitude tests. But based on what I've seen so far, I think you're exactly what this program needs. As Maya walked back to her dorm that night, she passed by the student center where Jake and his friends often hung out in the evening. Through the large windows, she could see them playing pool and laughing loudly. They looked so young and carefree, unaware that their actions had consequences beyond their immediate social circle. Maya didn't feel angry toward them anymore. Instead, she felt something more powerful, determination to prove that strength comes in many forms, and that underestimating someone based on their differences is always a mistake. The evaluation process was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. Over the course of 3 intensive days, she was tested physically, mentally, and psychologically. The physical assessments revealed that years of relying on her other senses had given her exceptional balance, spatial awareness, and visual processing speed. Her ability to detect subtle changes in her environment, skills she had developed to navigate a hearing world, impressed the military evaluators. During the psychological evaluation, Dr. Martinez, a military psychologist, was particularly interested in Maya's resilience and adaptability. Tell me about a time when you faced significant adversity, she asked through an interpreter. Maya shared stories about growing up deaf in a hearing world, about the daily challenges of communication barriers, and about the strength she had drawn from her family's support. What struck Dr. Martinez most was how Maya framed these experiences not as hardships, but as training that had prepared her for any challenge. Most people see obstacles, Maya explained through sign language. I learned early that obstacles are just puzzles waiting to be solved. Being deaf taught me to find alternative solutions when the obvious path isn't available. Meanwhile, back at college, Jake Morrison was facing his own challenges. His behavior in the cafeteria had not gone unnoticed by the university administration. Professor Williams had filed a formal complaint about the harassment, and Jake found himself sitting in the Dean of Students' office, facing potential disciplinary action. Mr. Morrison, Dean Foster said sternly, this type of behavior toward a fellow student is unacceptable. Harassment based on disability is not only against university policy, but it's also illegal under federal law. Jake shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He had expected a simple warning, not a formal disciplinary hearing. It was just a joke, he mumbled. I didn't mean anything serious by it. Intent doesn't negate impact, Dean Foster replied. Your actions created a hostile environment for Ms. Rodriguez and other students who witnessed your behavior. You'll be required to attend sensitivity training and write a formal apology. Jake left the meeting feeling frustrated and embarrassed. In his mind, He was the victim of an overreaction to harmless fun. He complained bitterly to his friends about political correctness gone too far, and how Maya was playing the victim card. But not everyone in Jake's social circle agreed with his perspective. Tom Chen, a pre-med student who had been part of Jake's group, began to distance himself from the quarterback's increasingly toxic behavior. Tom had started learning basic sign language after witnessing Maya's grace under pressure, and he was beginning to understand just how ignorant Jake's actions had been. 3 weeks later, Maya received the call she had been hoping for. Commander Chen's voice came through her phone's text-to-speech feature with news that would change everything. "Congratulations, Maya. You've been accepted into the program. Report to Naval Base Coronado in 2 weeks for the beginning of your training." Maya stared at the message for several minutes, barely believing it was real. She was going to become part of an elite military unit. The same hands that Jake had mocked would soon be trained in skills that most people could never imagine mastering. Her first call was to her parents. Her mother cried with joy and pride, while her father simply said, "I always knew you were destined for something special, Misha. Go show them what Rodriguez's strength looks like." Her second call was to Alex, who was so excited he could barely contain himself. "My sister is going to be a real soldier," he signed enthusiastically over their video call. "I can't wait to tell everyone at school." Telling her roommate Sarah was emotional for both of them. Sarah had become not just a roommate but a true friend, one of the few students who had taken the time to really get to know Maya as a person, rather than defining her by her deafness. "I'm so proud of you," Sarah signed with tears in her eyes. "But I'm going to miss you so much. Promise me you'll stay in touch during training." Maya's final weeks at college took on a surreal quality. She attended classes, completed assignments, and prepared for her temporary departure, all while knowing that she was about to embark on a journey that would transform her life completely. The news of her military acceptance spread quickly through campus. Professor Williams made sure to announce it in his chemistry class, where Maya had consistently been the top student. "Ms. Rodriguez has been selected for a prestigious military program," he told the class. "She'll be taking a leave of absence to serve her country. I hope you'll all join me in congratulating her on this remarkable achievement." The reaction was mixed. Many students offered genuine congratulations and expressed admiration for Maya's accomplishment. But Jake and his remaining followers seemed bitter about the positive attention Maya was receiving. "It's probably just some diversity program," Jake muttered to Brittany during lunch. "They probably lowered the standards just to include people like her." Tom Chen, who was sitting nearby, finally had enough. "People like her?" he challenged. "You mean people with perfect GPAs, 3 languages, and the courage to serve their country?" "Yeah, Jake, real low standards there." The exchange marked a turning point in Jake's social circle. More of his friends began to question his behavior and attitude. His girlfriend Brittany, who had initially gone along with his mockery, started to feel ashamed of her participation. On Maya's last day of classes before leaving for military training, something unexpected happened. As she was packing up her books after Professor Williams' final lecture, a small group of students approached her. They had prepared a farewell card signed by over 50 classmates, wishing her luck and thanking her for her example of perseverance and grace. "We wanted you to know," said Jennifer, a student from Maya's study group, "that not everyone on campus thinks like Jake Morrison. Most of us have learned a lot from watching how you handle yourself. You've made all of us want to be better people." Maya was moved to tears by the gesture. She had spent so much energy focusing on the negative voices that she had underestimated how many people had been quietly supporting her all along. That evening, as Maya finished packing for her departure, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. Every challenge, every moment of discrimination, every time someone had underestimated her, had contributed to building the strength and resilience that had qualified her for this opportunity. She thought about Jake's mocking gestures and cruel words. In a strange way, she was almost grateful for his behavior. His harassment had motivated her to prove herself in ways she might never have attempted otherwise. He had tried to make her feel small and different, but instead had pushed her toward an opportunity to serve her country and demonstrate that different could mean exceptional. Naval Base Coronado was a world away from the familiar campus life Maya had known. The military installation stretched along the Pacific coast, its imposing structures and constant activity creating an atmosphere of serious purpose. As Maya stepped off the transport bus with 11 other recruits, she felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness that she had never experienced before. The program was unlike traditional military training. These recruits had been selected not just for their physical capabilities, but for unique skills and perspectives that could serve specialized missions. Maya quickly learned that her fellow trainees included a former Olympic archer with perfect vision, a linguistics expert who spoke 7 languages fluently, a computer programmer who had helped design encryption software, and a former circus performer with extraordinary balance and agility. Petty Officer First Class Rodriguez, no relation to Maya, despite the shared surname, served as their primary instructor. He was a compact man with intense eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that immediately commanded respect. What surprised Maya was his immediate acknowledgement of her deafness as an operational advantage rather than a limitation. "Rodriguez," he said, addressing Maya directly while ensuring she could read his lips clearly, "your ability to communicate silently and maintain focus in chaotic environments will be invaluable. We're going to build on those natural abilities and turn them into tactical advantages." The first weeks of training were brutally challenging. Physical conditioning pushed every recruit to their limits and beyond. Maya discovered muscles she didn't know existed as she conquered obstacle courses, endured long-distance runs in soft sand, and learned to navigate in complete darkness using only her sense of touch and spatial awareness. Her deafness proved advantageous in ways that surprised even the instructors. During night navigation exercises, while other recruits were distracted by sounds that might indicate threats or direction, Maya remained focused purely on visual and tactile cues. She could detect vibrations through the ground that others missed, and her enhanced peripheral vision allowed her to spot movement that escaped her teammates' notice. Meanwhile, back at college, Jake Morrison was struggling with his own challenges. The disciplinary action had affected his standing with the football team, and his girlfriend Brittany had broken up with him after growing tired of his negative attitude. His circle of friends had shrunk considerably as more people began to distance themselves from his behavior. Tom Chen, his former friend, had become something of a campus advocate for disability awareness. He organized sign language study groups and invited speakers to discuss the experiences of deaf and hard-of-hearing students. The contrast between Tom's growth and Jake's stagnation was becoming increasingly obvious to everyone around them. At Coronado, Maya's training intensified. She learned advanced combat techniques, weapons handling, and tactical communication methods. Her instructors were amazed by her ability to process visual information quickly and accurately. During simulated combat scenarios, she could identify threats and opportunities that other recruits missed entirely. The specialized communication training was particularly exciting for Maya. She learned military hand signals, tactical sign language variations used by special forces, and even silent communication techniques that didn't rely on traditional sign language at all. Her years of experience reading lips and interpreting body language gave her an enormous advantage in understanding nonverbal communication. "You have a natural gift for reading people," Instructor Martinez told her during a break between training sessions. "Most people communicate as much with their posture, facial expressions, and gestures as they do with words. You've been trained to notice these details your entire life." One of the most challenging aspects of training was learning to work as part of a team while maintaining the silent communication that was becoming Maya's specialty. She developed a system of subtle hand signals that could convey complex tactical information to her teammates without alerting potential targets or enemies. Her fellow recruits began to appreciate Maya's unique abilities. During team exercises, they learned to rely on her visual assessment of situations and her ability to communicate critical information without making a sound. What had started as accommodation became recognition of her exceptional skills. 6 weeks into training, Maya received a letter from Alex that lifted her spirits during a particularly difficult week. Her brother had started a sign language club at his high school and was teaching other students about deaf culture and communication. He wrote about how proud he was to tell people that his sister was training to become an elite soldier. "Everyone at school thinks you're so cool," Alex wrote. "Even the mean kids who used to make jokes have stopped because they know you're basically becoming a superhero. I tell everyone that my sister is going to help protect our country with her superpowers. Maya smiled at her brother's innocent description of her abilities as superpowers. In a way, he wasn't wrong. Her deafness had forced her to develop enhanced abilities in other areas, and military training was helping her weaponize those skills for good. The psychological conditioning was just as intense as the physical training. Maya learned to remain calm under extreme pressure, to make split-second decisions with incomplete information, and to maintain focus even when faced with overwhelming sensory input, or in her case, visual input. During one particularly challenging exercise, recruits were placed in a room filled with flashing lights, moving objects, and multiple visual distractions while trying to complete complex tasks. While her hearing teammates struggled with sensory overload, Maya thrived. Her brain had spent years filtering and prioritizing visual information, and the exercise felt almost natural to her. "Outstanding work, Rodriguez," Petty Officer Rodriguez told her after the exercise. "You completed the task 40% faster than anyone else and with perfect accuracy. Your ability to maintain focus in chaotic environments is exactly what we're looking for in special operations support." As her training progressed, Maya began to understand that she wasn't just becoming a soldier. She was becoming a specialist whose unique abilities could contribute to missions that required the highest levels of skill and discretion. Her deafness wasn't being overlooked or accommodated. It was being valued as a tactical advantage. Back at college, news of Maya's military training had spread throughout the campus. Professor Williams often mentioned her achievements in his classes, using her as an example of how determination and unique perspectives could lead to extraordinary opportunities. Jake Morrison heard these updates with growing irritation. Each mention of Maya's success felt like a personal rebuke of his own behavior and assumptions. He had predicted that she would fail, that her differences would hold her back, and that his mockery had been justified. Instead, she was excelling in ways that made his own accomplishments seem trivial by comparison. The contrast between Maya's trajectory and his own stagnation was becoming impossible to ignore. While she was learning skills that would allow her to serve her country and protect others, he was struggling to maintain his GPA and dealing with the social consequences of his poor behavior. Maya's training was transforming her, not just physically and tactically, but emotionally as well. Every challenge she overcame, every skill she mastered, and every moment of recognition from her instructors built her confidence and sense of purpose. She was becoming the person she had always had the potential to be, but now with the training and opportunity to make a real difference in the world. 3 months into her training, Maya faced her most challenging test yet. The exercise was designed to simulate a real-world reconnaissance mission, where stealth, observation, and silent communication were paramount. Each recruit would be evaluated on their ability to gather intelligence, avoid detection, and coordinate with their team without using any audible communication. The scenario involved infiltrating a mock enemy compound, identifying specific targets, and extracting vital information without alerting the opposition forces. Maya's team consisted of herself and 3 other specially trained recruits, each with their own unique skill sets. As they prepared for the mission, Maya's teammates naturally looked to her for guidance on silent communication. Over the past month, she had become their unofficial expert on nonverbal coordination. She had taught them modified sign language techniques and helped them develop visual awareness that none of them had possessed before training. "Remember," Maya signaled to her team, "eyes are always moving, always watching. Trust what you see, not what you expect to see." The exercise began at dawn. Maya's team moved through the simulated compound with precision that impressed their observers. Her ability to detect subtle movements, identify potential threats, and communicate critical information without making a sound gave her team a significant advantage over the other groups participating in the exercise. During the most critical phase of the mission, Maya spotted something that could have compromised their entire operation. An enemy guard was positioned in a location that wasn't marked on their intelligence briefing. Using a series of rapid hand signals, she alerted her team to the threat and coordinated a route adjustment that kept them undetected. Her teammate Jackson, a former police officer from Chicago, later told their instructors, "Without Maya's eyes and her ability to communicate silently, we would have walked right into that position. She didn't just complete the mission, she saved it." The exercise results were exceptional. Maya's team achieved their objectives faster and more efficiently than any group in the program's history. Their after-action review became a case study for future training cycles. Commander Chen, who had flown in to observe the exercise, approached Maya afterward with obvious pride. "That was textbook special operations work," she told Maya through sign language. "You've demonstrated exactly why this program exists, to recognize and develop exceptional abilities, regardless of how they might be perceived by conventional standards." Meanwhile, at the college campus, the semester was drawing to a close. Jake Morrison found himself facing academic probation for the first time in his college career. His grades had suffered as he struggled with the consequences of his behavior and his inability to adapt to the changing social environment around him. The campus had evolved during Maya's absence. Tom Chen's advocacy work had led to new accessibility initiatives. Sign language classes were now offered as electives, and there was a general increase in awareness about disability rights and inclusion. Jake felt increasingly isolated in his outdated attitudes. During a particularly low moment, Jake encountered Professor Williams in the library. The older man observed Jake's obvious distress and, despite their previous conflicts, approached him with genuine concern. "Mr. Morrison," Professor Williams said quietly, "you seem to be struggling. Is there anything I can help you with?" Jake looked up with surprise. He had expected judgment or criticism, not an offer of help. "I don't know, Professor. Everything's just different now. People look at me like I'm some kind of villain just because I made a few jokes." Professor Williams sat down across from Jake, choosing his words carefully. "Mr. Morrison, I think you might be missing the point. This isn't about jokes or political correctness. It's about basic human respect and recognizing the dignity of every person." For the first time, Jake began to listen rather than defend himself. Professor Williams continued, "Maya Rodriguez didn't become successful despite her deafness. She became successful because of all the qualities that her experiences developed in her. Resilience, determination, unique problem-solving abilities, and yes, even her deafness itself. When you mocked her, you weren't just being mean. You were revealing your own inability to recognize strength in forms you didn't understand." The conversation continued for over an hour. Jake learned about Maya's military training, her exceptional performance, and the ways in which her differences had become tactical advantages. For the first time, he began to understand that his assumptions about disability and ability had been fundamentally wrong. Back at Coronado, Maya was receiving news that would change the trajectory of her military career. Commander Chen called her into a private meeting with several high-ranking officers who had been observing her training. "Rodriguez," Commander Chen began, "your performance has been exceptional across all metrics. We'd like to offer you an opportunity to join an active Special Operations Support Unit immediately upon completion of your basic training." Captain Harrison, a decorated SEAL team leader, leaned forward in his chair. "We've been watching your progress closely. Your skills in silent reconnaissance, threat assessment, and team coordination are exactly what we need for several upcoming operations. We'd like you to consider joining my unit." Maya felt her heart racing with excitement and pride. This was beyond anything she had dared to hope for when she first met with Commander Chen months ago. She was being invited to join an elite unit where her abilities would be valued and utilized at the highest levels of military operations. What would my role be? Maya asked through sign language. Captain Harrison had learned enough sign language during the evaluation process to respond directly. Reconnaissance specialist, silent communication coordinator, and tactical observer. Your ability to gather and process visual intelligence while maintaining complete operational silence makes you invaluable for certain types of missions. The offer came with significant responsibilities and risks, but also with the opportunity to serve her country in ways that few people ever could. Maya thought about her parents, who had sacrificed so much to give her opportunities. She thought about Alex, who looked up to her as a hero. And yes, she thought about Jake and everyone who had ever underestimated her because of their narrow understanding of what strength and ability looked like. "I'm honored by the offer," Maya responded. "When do I start?" The final weeks of training flew by as Maya prepared for her new role. She learned advanced techniques in surveillance, tactical photography, and specialized equipment operation. Her instructors continued to be amazed by her natural abilities and how quickly she adapted to new challenges. On her last day of training, Petty Officer Rodriguez pulled her aside for a final conversation. "Rodriguez, I've been training special operations personnel for 15 years. I've seen a lot of exceptional individuals come through this program, but I've never seen anyone who combined natural ability, determination, and character the way you have." He paused, making sure she could read his lips clearly. "You're going to save lives out there. Your teammates are going to depend on you, and I have complete confidence that you'll never let them down. You've proven that strength comes in many forms, and yours is exactly what this country needs." As Maya packed her gear for her transfer to the active unit, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. Every challenge, every moment of doubt, and every instance of discrimination had contributed to building the skills and determination that now made her valuable to her country's defense. She thought about returning to college, eventually to complete her degree, but now with the knowledge that she had already proven herself in ways that transcended any classroom achievement. She had become not just a soldier but a specialist whose unique abilities could contribute to missions that required the highest levels of skill and discretion. 6 months after joining Captain Harrison's Special Operations Unit, Maya had already participated in 3 successful missions that showcased her unique abilities. Her reputation within the Special Forces community was growing rapidly, and her teammates had come to rely on her skills in ways that exceeded everyone's initial expectations. The team was preparing for their most challenging assignment yet, a reconnaissance mission in a hostile region where traditional communication methods would be too risky. Maya's ability to coordinate team movements silently and gather intelligence without detection made her an essential part of the operation. During the pre-mission briefing, Captain Harrison addressed the team with obvious respect for Maya's contributions. "Rodriguez's visual intelligence gathering in our last operation provided critical information that prevented potential casualties. Her ability to maintain communication silence while coordinating team movements has become one of our most valuable tactical advantages." Maya felt a deep sense of pride and purpose. She was no longer the college student who had been mocked for her differences. She was a valued member of an elite military unit whose unique abilities contributed directly to the safety and success of her teammates and the completion of vital national security missions. Meanwhile, back at the college campus, the spring semester had brought significant changes. Tom Chen had been elected student body president, running on a platform of inclusion and diversity that had been inspired partly by his witnessing of Maya's treatment and subsequent success. Jake Morrison had undergone his own transformation during Maya's absence. The conversation with Professor Williams had been a turning point, leading him to enroll in sign language classes and disability studies courses. He had begun volunteering with local deaf community organizations, initially out of guilt but gradually developing genuine understanding and respect. The change in Jake hadn't gone unnoticed. His former girlfriend Brittany observed his efforts with skepticism at first, but eventually recognized that his transformation was authentic. "I have to admit," she told their mutual friend Lisa, "Jake really seems to be trying to become a better person. He's not just going through the motions, he's actually learning and growing." Professor Williams had been following Maya's military career through official updates and took every opportunity to share her achievements with his classes. During one particularly memorable lecture, he announced that Maya had been commended for her exceptional service and had been selected for advanced training that would qualify her for even more specialized operations. Ms. Rodriguez continues to demonstrate that excellence knows no boundaries, Professor Williams told his chemistry class. "She's proving every day that what some people see as limitations can actually be extraordinary strengths when properly recognized and developed." Back with her military unit, Maya was preparing for a mission that would test every skill she had developed. Intelligence reports indicated that a terrorist cell was planning an attack on a civilian target, and Maya's team had been tasked with gathering information to prevent the operation. The mission required infiltrating an urban environment where the team would need to blend in with civilian populations while conducting surveillance. Maya's ability to observe and communicate without drawing attention made her the perfect point person for the operation. Captain Harrison reviewed the mission parameters with Maya privately before the team briefing. "Rodriguez, this operation relies heavily on your unique abilities. We need someone who can maintain extended observation periods, identify potential threats through visual cues alone, and coordinate team positioning without any risk of communication interception. Maya nodded with confidence. I understand, Captain. What's the timeline? 48 hours of continuous surveillance, with potential for extended deployment if necessary. Are you ready for this level of responsibility? Maya thought about all the people who had doubted her abilities, all the challenges she had overcome, and all the teammates who now depended on her skills. I've been ready my whole life, sir. The mission launched at dawn. Maya's team inserted into the target area and established observation positions overlooking the suspected terrorist meeting location. Her job was to maintain visual surveillance while coordinating her teammates' movements through silent signals. For 18 hours, Maya maintained perfect focus and discipline. Her enhanced visual processing allowed her to catalog every person entering and leaving the target building, identify potential weapons or suspicious behavior, and track movement patterns that would be crucial for the operation's success. During the most critical phase of the surveillance, Maya detected something that changed everything. Through her binoculars, she observed a series of subtle hand signals being exchanged between individuals at different locations around the target building. The signals weren't random. They were a coordinated communication system. Maya quickly realized that the terrorist cell was using their own form of silent communication to coordinate their activities. Her years of experience with visual communication allowed her to recognize the pattern and begin decoding their system. Working quickly and silently, Maya documented the terrorist communication patterns and relayed the information to her team. Her analysis revealed that the planned attack was scheduled for that evening, much sooner than intelligence had predicted. Captain Harrison received Maya's intelligence update with immediate understanding of its significance. Her discovery had potentially prevented a major terrorist attack and saved civilian lives. The mission was repositioned from surveillance to immediate intervention based on Maya's visual intelligence gathering. The operation concluded successfully, with the terrorist cell apprehended before they could execute their planned attack. During the debriefing, Maya's commanding officers praised her exceptional work and her critical contribution to the mission's success. Rodriguez's ability to detect and decode the terrorist communication system was the turning point in this operation. Captain Harrison reported to his superiors. Her unique skills in visual communication and pattern recognition provided intelligence that prevented a major civilian casualty event. As news of the successful operation filtered through military channels, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. She had gone from being mocked for her sign language to using her visual communication expertise to help prevent a terrorist attack. Back at college, Jake Morrison was completing his own journey of growth and understanding. He had spent months learning about deaf culture, studying sign language, and volunteering with disability advocacy organizations. His transformation had been gradual but genuine, moving from ignorance and prejudice to respect and understanding. One evening, Jake sat down to write a letter that he had been composing in his mind for months. It was a letter to Maya, expressing his sincere apology for his past behavior and his admiration for her achievements. He knew she was serving overseas and might not receive the letter for some time, but he felt compelled to acknowledge his mistakes and express his respect for the person he had once mocked. Dear Maya, he began, I know I have no right to contact you after how I treated you, but I wanted you to know that I've learned how wrong I was about everything. Your success in the military doesn't surprise me anymore. I've learned enough about you and people like you to understand that I was the one with limitations, not you. I hope someday I can apologize in person and show you that people can change and grow. The letter represented more than just an apology. It was evidence of how one person's courage and excellence could inspire positive change in others, even in those who had initially opposed and mocked them. Maya's example had created ripple effects throughout her college community and beyond. Students were more aware of disability issues, more respectful of differences, and more likely to recognize strength in forms they hadn't previously understood. Her success had challenged assumptions and changed attitudes in ways that extended far beyond her own personal achievements.